Hello and welcome to Retech, and today we're going to cover a very well-known computer, the Atari 520 ST. They maybe get forgotten in parts of the UK and, to a certain extent the US as well, because the Amiga seemed to gain a lot more traction. But you have to remember that the Atari ST, the 520 ST and the entire ST range was well ahead of the Amiga in terms of sales and software and what it could do at the time the Amiga was launched, because they were launched virtually months apart. Now the ST kind of gets overshadowed, and today we're going to try and kind of go through expanding the ST and maybe making it a bit more useful, although it is useful because of its MIDI capabilities, but useful as an everyday kind of machine, or a gamer machine, or a retro machine, or whatever you want to use it for. Now I'm not going into the history today of the ST, but I'm going to do a little bit of that in a few future videos, because I think it deserves a lot more than it actually gets. It's kind of like the jack of all trades. It's a machine that can do most things very well and certain things very, very well, and it exceeds what the Amiga can do in a lot of areas. But because the Amiga got such a foothold with its advertising of it being a aspirational machine, especially in the UK, well, it kind of overtook the Atari ST eventually. Now that's not to say the ST doesn't have a few shortcomings, but it's kind of like how I choose my bikes. It sounds a bit weird, but I've always been into bikes. I've always kind of had bikes. I've done hundreds of thousands of miles on motorbikes. My previous tool of choice, or weapon of choice, was a pan-European. I've had two ST1100s. Now my last one pictured here is a machine that literally did 322,000 miles before it gave up the ghost, before it expired, and that was an amazing mileage for a bike, which for any bike really, because they tend not to do that kind of mileage. Now I replaced that bike, because I needed one reasonably quickly, with this. And you've seen this bike in a video I did about the companies that set up in Cambridge. Now this bike's been refurbished and it's now this colour and it looks like this. It's had quite a bit of time and money spent on it, but it's now become a classic bike. It's my everyday kind of runaround, and it's now seen as a classic bike. It's a jack of all trades. It does everything that you would ever want a bike to do. It's not the fastest, it's not the biggest, it's not the most powerful, but it's an all-round tool. It will take you anywhere that you want to go, and it will carry your luggage, it will carry your camping gear, it will do whatever you want it to do. And that's a little bit like the Atari ST. Now this bike's going to be replaced very shortly, because I've had it for a very long time and it's never once given me a single day of trouble. But it's now passing into the realm of being a classic bike, so I intend to use it now on high days and holidays, and going to bike rallies and so on, because it's now not seen that often in this kind of condition on the road. So that's what this bike's going to be, and this is very much going to be the similar choice to my next bike, which is going to be another Honda jack of all trades bike. I've been through the super bikes, I've been through the hyper bikes, and these are the bikes that I kind of go to because of what they can do. They're not focused on one thing. Now that was the same as the 520 ST. It wasn't particularly focused on one thing. It could do a lot of things very, very well, but it wasn't a machine that was focused in one direction. The Amiga got focused on graphics. The ST was originally a jack of all trades business and home machine. It was meant to be used in the office or for gaming. It was never sidelined like the Amiga was into a more professional role when it first came out. The Atari ST was, here's the machine, do what you want with it. And that was a very, very good philosophy. But as with all things, these machines are getting a little bit long in the tooth, is probably the best phrase. A lot of them need restoring, and a lot of them need work to put the colour back and the keyboards back and all that kind of thing. Some of them are missing feet, like that one, but you know, that's easily solved. But if it works and it was reliable, which most, well, in fact all of my STs are, then you can enhance them and make them more useful. And to this end, I've got some bits and pieces here which makes this machine a much better machine. It's kind of pimping it out a little bit. Now, one of the things I first come across, which I find really, really good, is the SD4ST. It's a hard drive emulator. It's got, or it can use, 2 SD cards and therefore replicate 2 hard drives or 2 large partitions of a hard drive. So it basically appears as a hard drive on your machine, and it's very, very good. It's very fast, and we're going to have this connected to this machine shortly. And the good thing about this is that it's in a proper enclosure. It's not a bare circuit board that's been kind of left to its own devices hanging off the back of the machine. So this makes it really more of a commercial kind of product rather than the bare board systems that are out there. Now, the other thing, I have to know, I'll just unplug this. Basically, I originally ordered one of these, and I got it delivered from the company who provides them, and the first one had a bit of a fault. I tried it on quite a few of my STs and it didn't power up, and so I sent them a message. Now, this is how good the vintage and classic community is. I sent them a quick message saying this device doesn't power up. I've tried it on a 1040, a 520, an STE and so on, and it seems like there's an issue with it. So I said I don't want to take it apart because, you know, I probably could find the fault in it and sort it out, but you know, it's one of those things. If they have an issue with them, they need to know. And so I sent them a message. They replied to me straight away, and I actually said, look, I really need it because I want to put some MIDI stuff on one of these. That's the original intention I bought this for. And before I'd even really got a reply off the email, they'd already shipped this and the second one I ordered, because, you know, obviously I kind of knew that they were going to do something about it because they seemed genuine, and they shipped both of them literally before the ink was dry, so to speak, on the emails, and that was fantastic. And they also bundled this little adapter to run the unit directly from the ST instead of a separate power supply, and I thought that was fantastic. They even bundled in a cable, which a USB cable, which is quite handy, although I do have quite a lot of these, but it's nice. It was a nice gesture and it was nice for them to do. So this isn't sponsored by them at all, but I just thought, you know, I'd mention them because they were very, very good, and they were actually a pleasure to deal with. They'd actually shipped it before I'd started to return the faulty one, you know, because they did it that quickly. The second thing we're going to cover today is changing the original floppy drive. I know it's quite easy to try and change the drive on these, but we're going to just go over the reasons why we should use a Gotek or something similar, and combining both of these gives this machine an edge. It gives this machine the ability to run almost every bit of software out there. So we're going to have a quick look at what this and a Gotek can do in the same machine, and whether or not you should go for one or the other. Now, this is the test bench, so we're going to have a quick look, and we're going to take the machine apart and have a look inside. Okay, so we have the Atari 520 ST. This machine really is a Atari 1040. It's got the upgrades for the memory. It's not really, you know, any different to a 1040, but it's had a memory upgrade, which we're going to have a quick look at as well on this machine. And also we're going to see what the differences are once we've kind of assembled the machine as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the machine apart. So first thing we're going to do is just get rid of the case, basically. Okay, so all the screws are out of the case now, and we're going to just turn it over and then take the case off. So there's a few things that really you have to be very careful of. Okay, it's the fact that these cases are getting brittle. Okay, so when you take it off, just be gentle and just push it that way as you lift it, so you don't snap it on the original floppy drive. Now, this machine had a floppy drive fault originally, and I've got a spare drive, but I really wanted to kind of upgrade this machine a little bit. Now, the biggest fault you can immediately see is the keys have yellowed on here, and the case has grayed somewhat in comparison to what it should be. But those are kind of minor. It's still got most of its RF shield still in place. This is your memory upgrade here, and it's one of the more professional type, because it's actually got ribbon cables connected to it rather than bunches of wires soldered to the board, which a lot of these did have originally, and it was quite a messy upgrade. Now this one's quite neat. Now I've already fitted the Gotek. Now I ordered a bracket to make it fit within the actual drive bay, because you can use them independently, so you can have the cable coming out of the back of the machine and have the Gotek sat on top if you really wanted to. But I don't intend on ever putting a floppy drive back in this machine. I intend on keeping it like this. So they're very easy to do. The biggest problem with these Goteks is that then it depends on who you buy them from. This one wasn't particularly brilliant, so I had to rebond the screen with some hot glue just here, because it was flapping about when I actually got the device delivered. Now, for those of you who've never installed a Gotek before, it's quite easy. All you do is remove the drive and you use the original standoff points to mount the cradle and the Gotek drive itself, and it just connects via this floppy cable. Now on these machines, the cost cutting by Trammell & Co was incredible. I mean, the floppy cable here, the ribbon cable basically here, was designed to be so short that it only just reached the connectors for your drive. So depending on how short the board is, because some are shorter than this, you may have to replace this cable. Okay, so be aware of that. In fact, just order one if you're going to order a Gotek. Find a longer cable just in case, because you don't want to then have to wait another few days or week or whatever until you found one and get it delivered. So this is your Atari ST on the inside. I mean, there's nothing to it. If you've never done one of these before, it will take you 15 minutes really to install it, and if you've done it before, about 5. So you don't need to worry too much about installing them. Now you need to always remember, if you take anything apart, to add in the earth of any board, because obviously you're going to get, or there is a possibility of getting static built up. So you need to remember to always put these leads back on again, okay? Even if you remove the memory to get access to the floppy drive cable, if you've got a memory upgrade in your machine already. Now, it's no different between installing one of these on a 520 to an STE to a 1040, etc. They're all the same, so don't worry too much about it. Now, this one is set up for an Atari ST, but if you get a Gotek that's not set up, you will have to download the files to make it work for your particular machine in some cases. So be aware of that. Be aware you may have to spend 10 or 15 minutes searching on the internet to get the correct files. And they use standard USB keys, okay, and it's a FAT formatted key, okay, and that's it. Once you've done that, you can then drop your files straight onto them. Now Gotex are for floppy based images, okay, so again you can drop any of your floppy based images on this device and you know it will work, but there's a problem, okay, and it's not so much a problem, it's more of a glitch or an issue. Make sure that you get a brand new USB key, not one that you've gotten reused and reformatted, etc. okay, what happens is it drops a config file and it uses that file to initiate, you know, the emulation for your USB key. And the simplest way of not confusing that file is to drop everything on the key under one folder. So don't do subfolders on a USB key. If you want to put a USB key full of demos, then drop the demos on that key and mark it up as demos and plug it in when you need to use it. If you want to have a USB full of games, drop all the games on it as is, no subfolders and so on, and then it'll work fine. Once you start putting subfolders on your USB device or USB key, I find that a lot of these Gotex, it's not just limited to this one, it's it can be the same for the Amiga versions, etc., have problems in when you're trying to select the correct directory for your subdirectories and your subfolders and etc. So just drop them on as if you would do on a floppy disk on an Atari ST. Literally just dump them on the stick and then select whatever program or whatever game etc. you want to run. So that's the best way of doing it, okay? So don't go down the route of getting a huge memory stick and putting loads of subfolders on. Just get a few smaller memory keys or memory sticks and then use them for different things, like one for games, one for your demos, one for your music systems, one for whatever you want to use it, and then just use individual keys. They're cheap enough to buy now and you don't need massive ones. You can buy kind of packs of 3 in a supermarket or a, you know, Walmart or somewhere like that for pennies these days. So just, you know, go down that route. It makes life a lot easier, I promise you, okay? So that's really what your machine will look like with a Gotex installed. Now the SD4ST drive, this doesn't particularly need installing. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you with these two drives running, and then you can make your decision as to which works better for you. Okay, so even before we actually plug this slot in and get it up and running, I've dropped the case on it. I'm not going to screw it down because what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this case refurbished, and I'm going to do that later because I quite like this machine and it's, you know, one I'm going to use a lot more because I'm making it the way I want it to work. So, but first we're going to talk about monitors, okay? Originally this model came with the option of an Atari monitor or a RF, so you can plug it into a TV set, okay? And most people will have gone down the TV route for one of these, and because the monitors added a lot of cost to this. But now there are better options. Now, high res on these machines, you needed a monochrome monitor. Now, a monochrome monitor on these, you know, allowed you to run things like Cubase and your word processing and your desktop publishing and so on. Now there's a better option really, and it's an VGA adapter here, and it's one of the options, and it runs in high-res monochrome, and they are quite good. So if we just plug it in and get it up and running, we'll show you what we mean. Okay, so we've got it plugged in here. I've just let the cables over the top so you can see exactly what's going on. We have the adapter which allows the signals from the Atari ST to basically be converted into standard VGA, and as you can see on the screen, it's a nice clear picture. I mean, it's really nice. The text is crisp, the graphics are crisp, it's steady, it's stable, and it's something that you would like to use with a desktop publishing package or Cubase. Cubase would be my preferred one because obviously using it as a MIDI system is something I actually use these for anyway. So nice display, brilliant, but it won't run games and it won't run anything in color. Now the really weird thing is about these is that you can't run both outputs together. It doesn't like it. Okay, so so you can't really run the independent circuitry on the back of here to run two monitors, etc. So it's not like the Commodore 128, which would allow you to run both monitors or both different monitors out of the back of the machine simultaneously. But you know, it's not a big deal because at the end of the day you would use this for one thing or another. Okay, so this works really, really well. Now the second option you have, which I think is the most worthwhile, is one of these. Okay, and it's to allow you to plug into your AV composite sockets, etc., and it's via the same port as your monitor would normally use, or the Atari monitor would normally use, and it puts out a good color signal. It's very steady, very stable, and there's no tuning, etc. You can get these versions for SCART as well, and they are very, very good. They're much more convenient than an RF because a lot of TVs have a lot of ghosting. Even LCD TVs, some of them don't actually detect RF that well. So we'll there's your options on your screen. It's either RF, VGA mono, or it's through a composite AV lead or a monitor, standard Atari ST monitor to SCART converter. You can upscale these to HDMI as well if you look around, but at the moment there's not that many around and I haven't actually tried it, but that's something I'm going to try next. But to be honest, most of my smaller LCD flat panels are either VGA or this composite AV style. Okay, so there's your options on your screens. Now we're going to go back to this now, but what we're going to do is we're going to use it on a color screen because it's easier for the camera to pick up. Okay, so the first thing we really do is plug in this. This is your USB adapter. Make sure that your machine is powered off. And the next thing you do is you plug in the cable into here. It's just your standard micro USB, and then that goes into the adapter on the side, which provides your power. And then it literally just plugs into the back of the Atari. Once it's all connected up, it's quite a neat solution. And if you tidy your wires out of the way down the back, you really wouldn't know it was actually on there. It's quite unobtrusive. Now you pop your memory card into slot 0 if you're only using one. Otherwise you can use 2. And when you buy the full kit with this, it comes with a pre-imaged memory card, so you don't have to do a lot. But if you get a system without the card, then you have to go through another step just to make sure the card's set up with the correct config file to make this work. Now the first thing you'll find is that it's hunting. It comes up with this hard disk driver, and if you just leave it, it goes to the default, and you can see the hard disk on here. Okay, and literally all you need to do is double click on it just like any other item, whether it's a floppy or a hard drive, etc. And this is what's on there. So you can split it up into folders, you can split it up into categories, directories, just like you would a normal drive. And it's really quick and it works really well. And once you click on something that you want, you just find the correct launch file, such as a start or a program file. And as you can see, here we go. And it just works like any other proper hard drive, but it's actually quicker. It's quicker than a mechanical drive that you could get for these machines. It's a lot quicker. My original thought was to use this for MIDI synthesizers, MIDI programs, Cubase, etc. And that's what I'm going to be using mainly this drive for, which is exactly what I bought it for originally. So there'll be a little bit more to come on using this with a MIDI system probably in the future, but as you can see, this runs really well. Now, your other option was your GoTech drive, which was what we're going to do now. So I'm going to turn the machine off, and we're going to insert the memory stick into the GoTech drive, and you will see a slight change on the screen, and this is why I decided to use both. Okay, once you're ready, GoTech drive's up and running, and it's basically, we'll look for the hard drive first, which is really what it should be doing anyway, which is a good, neat way of doing things. But you've also got a hard drive and you have your floppy disk, and this is what you have set up on your GoTech. Remember, on a GoTech you have to select the disk you want to run before you reset the machine, and then it will always boot with that floppy. And in this case it's just a demo, a boring demo. And because you now have two options, you literally have, there you go, it's running. You literally have your floppy drive, as in you would with a standard floppy, but you select your file format or your program first. Or you have the hard drive, which acts as a hard drive where you can just dip in and out of it as you really want to. And this makes a great combination for your Atari ST, and it makes it much more usable. Out of the two, I think I prefer the hard drive, the SD4ST, because it's more convenient. You can drop in, drop out, drop files on it and so on. You can use it to store your own custom files. You can do all of the normal stuff you would on a hard drive. But the GoTech is also very good if you're more interested in playing games and you just want to load up a game or load up a program that you'll normally have on floppy disk. So they're both good, and having them both in the machine makes this machine much more usable. If you can put both in there, fantastic. If you can put both in a 520 and upgrade the memory, much better. You have a machine that will then run just about every piece of software. Okay, so that's a look at your Atari ST, your options you have to make it better, your options to have with the screens and the displays, and your options to have with storage. And storage makes a difference. If you can put everything that you have software wise on one machine, whether it was your hard drive files or your floppy disk files, this becomes much more usable and a much better machine. So at the end of the day, it's your choice whether you put both or one in, but I would recommend, if you're looking for a hard drive, is to go with the SD4ST, because it's well packaged, well put together. The company who does it, or the people who do it, are exceptionally fantastic, and they will deal with any issues straight away, and that is really good. Now, the GoTech drive is brilliant if you're playing games and you want files to run like you would off a floppy drive, etc., and that makes an amazing contribution to the overall running of an Atari ST, because you no longer have to rely on mechanical drives, and it's much quieter as well and much more reliable, to be honest. So these are your kind of options to upgrade or pimp out or max out or do what you want to do with your Atari 520 ST. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you will subscribe, and I'll catch you in a bit. So thanks a lot, thanks for watching, see you soon.